y'all? It's yours truly, Savon the Dawn, and we just speaking our minds to transform lives. And we come to you straight out of the AUC in the Atlanta area, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl Tatiana, aka The Quiet Storm, and you just tuned into Transparent, where we keep it real, raw, radical, and always transparent.
What's up, y'all? What's up? It's yours truly, Savon the Dawn.
And Tatiana, aka The Quiet Storm.
And we like to thank y'all for tuning into another show of Transparent. This episode or segment will be on Black Trans Lives Matter. And we're going to get into our transparent moment of the day.
And we're going to talk about what matters, something that matters to us today. So one thing that matters to me is, for years, I have had a soft spot, for those who are homeless. I used to actually be involved in a lot of homeless outreaches when I lived in Pittsburgh. I was in Pittsburgh for a year. Long story, but I actually used to be a preacher, and I went to Bible college and all that stuff, and we would frequently do outreaches to the homeless, and that's really where my passion was birthed, for homeless people. But this time of year, it especially bothers me because, I just see them and they're just out in the cold. I know that they are freezing, very uncomfortable, and it just deeply bothers me. And of course, I can't fix everyone's situation, but it's something that deeply matters to me that I would like to help to continue developing a solution for. But the homeless, that matters quite a bit to me. So, and like I said, especially this time of year, not just because it's cold out and things like that, but it's the holidays. And I think about them not being able to be surrounded by people that love them and care about them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree. That's also a soft spot of mine. I really have a soft spot for children, and really, when I'm thinking about homeless out, I'm really thinking about kids and them not having a bed or the luxuries that a lot of people take for granted. It's around this time that I really get really soft-hearted and very, very sympathetic, because sometimes it's really hard to look at and to know that when you look into your own life and you're complaining about things, just thinking about and looking out and saying that there's somebody much worse off than you. And so that is a very much sad thing to think about around this time of year and pretty much all year round. But yeah, getting into the topic of Black Trans Lives Matter. Black Trans Lives Matter. Specifically, we're talking about why or how all these trans women, majority of them of Black and Latino background, being killed, majority by cis Black men, and how that plays out.
So, I think, when I look at the situation with specifically Black trans women, that's what I'm going to be focusing on, is it bothers me very deeply because, I am one. And I think, for me, I don't know, it bothers me a lot because every time I look at the news and I see where another Black trans woman has been murdered, it's like, well, I could be next. And so, I think it's very foolish of any black trans woman to think that she is, um, I don't know, that she is immune to being targeted or murdered. You're not. And so it is in your best interest, in all of our best interests, to know how to protect ourselves, to know what the threat is and what is going on. And so, yeah, every time I turn around, it seems like another black trans woman has been murdered. And just to give you all some facts, this is not my opinion. These are facts. You can look them up. The average life expectancy for a black trans woman is 35 years old. Let that sink in for a moment. 35 years old. Way too damn young to be dying. And in these situations, when they do die, it is not, like I said, it's not some random cause. They are murdered. From the stories that I have read, many of them are shot. You have some who are stabbed. You have some who are even burned. But it is always very brutal. It's very ugly, and I refuse to sugarcoat it because people need to see how ugly it is. They need to feel the weight of it because maybe it will develop some type of compassion in their hearts. But this year, I want to say already about maybe 21 to 22 black trans women have been killed. Now, that may not sound like a large number, but when you look at the size of the population of black trans women compared to the rest of the U.S. population, that number of 21 or 22 becomes much larger. So, but yeah, I think this is certainly an issue that no one is talking about, because what ends up happening is that when these stories are reported, there's very little news coverage. The other problem is, although yes, we know that maybe 21 or 22 have been murdered, there are many others who either are not reported, or when they are reported, they misgender the trans women and they call them he and him, so we don't actually know that it was a trans woman who was killed because they are using the wrong gender pronouns. So there's a very strong likelihood that other black trans women have been murdered and we just don't know about it. So there's a lot of parts to this, but the main thing I've noticed, another fact here, a lot of the time when you do read these stories and they have pictures of not only the victim but the perpetrator, a lot of times the perpetrators of these vicious murders of black trans women are black heterosexual cisgender men. And I am not saying that to throw black cis hetero men under the bus. I'm saying it because it is a fact and we have to deal with the facts. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I don't care about babysitting anyone's feelings on this topic. And so it's typically black cis hetero men that are the perpetrators of these murders of black trans women. And, of course, there are several factors. I mean, there's insecurity on part of these black men that are perpetrating these crimes. There's just a general shame that surrounds being involved with black trans women at all, because if people find out that a man likes a trans woman, automatically they are labeled as gay, they are made fun of, they are criticized. And so I would say in large part, the black community does its black cis hetero men a huge disservice because they shame them for their attractions, and that is completely unacceptable. There is no excuse, and especially not in the day and time that we live in. And there's just no excuses. It's time to grow up. It's time to learn how to deal with the fact that you live in a world with people that are different from yourself. There is no excuse to shame someone for who they love, period. But there's a lot of factors I think that go into these murders. But the one thing that troubles me the most is that we do not know exactly why they're dying. We can draw inferences about why they're dying. We can say, well, it's because black cis hetero men are insecure. We can say that potentially these black trans women are involved in risky behaviors that end up aiding their murders. There's a lot of different things that we could say, but the thing is, a lot of the time when these news reports do come out, it doesn't say why they were killed. And so, of course, that's a major question that needs answered, because the reason why knowing why is so important is because it helps other black trans women who have not succumbed to murder to know how to protect themselves. If there are certain behaviors that are facilitating their murders, it would help us to know what those behaviors are so that we can avoid them, or so that we would better know how to protect ourselves in certain situations. But when we don't know why they're dying, there's not much that we can do to protect ourselves, because from an outsider's perspective, I'm looking at these news stories like it's just random shootings or random stabbings or random burnings. But really, there's a lot more behind why they're being killed, but we're not being told that reason. And so as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. It angers me very deeply. And in many ways, I feel helpless. And in other ways, I feel like, I almost feel like in some ways our community is crying out for help. And when I say our community, I mean the black trans female community, that we're crying out for help and no one cares. And that to me is just sad. It's very sad. Because again, as when we talk about, and we've mentioned this in other shows, but when we talk about Black Lives Mattering, all black lives have to matter, or else that claim is erroneous. If you say that Black Lives Matter, but then you turn around and contradict yourself and say, well, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but black trans female lives don't matter, then that whole claim is false. If we say that Black Lives Matter, that means every single black life, even black trans women. And so I think that we need to really address this topic and see what can be done.
Yes. A lot of the times when these when these black trans women are getting killed, a lot of times it's from like Tatiana, aka the Quiet Storm, said, is done by black cis heterosexual men. And a lot of the time they knew that they were dealing with a trans woman, because 9 times out of 10 a trans woman isn't going to get involved with somebody without letting them know. That is one thing for sure. And another thing is, sometimes these men, they spaz out psychologically, because there is this whole thing about black male sexuality that is often shamed and is often attacks a man's manhood, especially if he goes outside of liking the typical or view the societal standard of liking a cisgendered woman. So if you go outside of liking a cisgendered woman, then automatically your manhood is put into question, your sexuality is put into question, when in all honesty, sexuality is a very natural thing. Liking who you like is very natural. It is, and black trans women are no different than from any other woman. They're a woman. Yes, they're a different type of woman, but nevertheless, they are a woman. And a person should not be shamed for liking that type of woman. And a man shouldn't have to feel insecure for liking that type of woman, or feel like his life is being put into question, or his manhood is being put into question for liking that type of woman. And honestly, it's very cowardly to take out your confusion, or because they don't understand something, out on that trans woman, or to take her life. Nobody's life should be taken just for simply being who they are. That is absolutely unacceptable. And honestly, I'm going to take a charge here and say that, being that black trans men are invisible in society, I'm going to take a charge, and I'm going to say, on behalf of the black men of trans experience, I'm going to say that black trans men need to stand up, and they need to stand proud, and they need to start defending black trans women, especially in unnecessary instances like this, because cis black men have already made it known that they don't give a shit about cis black women, and it's shown in the media, it's shown in the music industry. They treat their women like shit. And this is why a lot of cis black women go to white men, because they feel like there's not enough good black men to go around. Particularly when they're saying this, they're talking about cis black men. They're not really talking about trans black men, because again, we're invisible. But with that said, I'm gonna take a charge and say that black trans men need to start standing up for black trans women, because indeed that is their counterpart, that is your woman. So you need to start standing up for them. And I'm gonna hold my brothers accountable, and I would hope that my brothers hold me accountable as well. And with that said, we're going to be signing off, and we hope you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will leave the links down below of the stories of black trans women that have been murdered, and the numbers, how they increase from this year compared to last year, because it's continuously happening when it shouldn't be. It's unnecessary. Just death, period, being shot for being who you are shouldn't happen. And so we hope that you guys have a lovely day, a lovely night, whenever you're listening to this. And this is Savon the Don signing out, along with
Tatiana, aka The Quiet Storm. Mwah.